Hello students, this lecture is focused on the genre of poetry named sonnet, and so it is totally on sonnet, and you will come to know about sonnet, the types of sonnet, the history of sonnet, and at the end of this lecture the concept of sonnet will be crystal clear for you. So coming to sonnet, sonnet is a poem, very short poem, which generally have 14 lines. And the very word sonnet, it is derived from Latin word sonetto, which means a little song. So it was an Italian form, and Petrarch was the poet who used it to write love poems. And so this is a Petrarchan sonnet. So as you can see it, there are two parts in the Petrarchan sonnet, an octave and a sestet. An octave is of 8 lines and a sestet is of 6 lines. So the rhyming scheme of the Petrarchan sonnet, as you can clearly see it, it is A B B A, A B B A, C D, C D E, C D E, C D C, C D C. There are two types of difference in the sestet. So rhyming scheme means the hour in the first line rhymes with the bower in the fourth line, the fen in the second line rhymes with the pen in the third line. Similarly, the same sound hour, bower is repeated, fen, man again is repeated. So we give new letter to the new type of sound. So whenever we come to rhyming, then we are very we concentrate on the last word of the line, and we are bothered about the sound of that last word. And so the rhyming scheme of a Petrarchan sonnet is A B B A, A B B A, C D E, C D E, or C D C, or C D C. So there the octave introduces the theme or the problem of the poem or the sonnet. Octave means 8 lines and sestet means 6 lines. So total it is 14 lines, and sestet solves the problem. So this is a very famous sonnet by William Wordsworth, which was written after the death of Milton. So structure of a Petrarchan sonnet, there are two divisions, an octave of 8 lines and a sestet of 6 lines. And sestet, in a sestet itself there are two tercets of 3 lines each, with a caesura or stop at the 9th line. 9th line, we will come for backward to the that slide. So you see that the 9th line, there is a caesura. Caesura means a stop, and volta means a turn in the thought. So this is an important characteristic of a Petrarchan sonnet, that it is the caesura or the stop in the 9th line is indicated by a full stop. So the octave discusses a problem and the sestet proposes a solution. So we can easily identify a Petrarchan sonnet by its rhyming scheme A B B A, C D E, C D E, or C D C or C D C. So coming to the Shakespearean, English or Elizabethan sonnet, basically sonnet was an Italian form, and it was Thomas Bart and Henry Howard. They were basically diplomats, and they were on a tour to Italy, and there they heard the sonnet and they liked it most, and they were the first one to practice sonnet in England. But after them, Shakespeare perfected it, and during the Elizabethan age it was used very frequently. So the mastery of Shakespeare over sonnet gave English sonnet the name Shakespearean sonnet. So the structure of a Shakespearean sonnet is different from Petrarchan sonnet. There is 3 quatrains of 4 lines and a concluding couplet of 2 lines. The problem is discussed and thought is developed throughout quatrains, means whatever the problem is discussed in the 12 lines, means 4 quatrains, 3 quatrains of 4 lines each, and the rhyming couplet, the last couplet, gives the solution to the problem. And the rhyming scheme is very simple. It is different from Petrarchan sonnet. A B A B, C D C D, E F E F, G G. The last couplet rhymes. It is a sample of a Shakespearean sonnet. In this, it is a very famous sonnet by Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So day and May, it is the same sound, A, and it rhymes. Temperate and date, it is the same sound, B, B. Then the next sound is named C, shine and decline. Dimmed and untrimmed, D. Fade and shade, the next sound named E. Oest, F, growest, F, and the last one C and the G, G. So these are the 3 quatrains and a concluding couplet. So coming to the next type of sonnet, Spenserian sonnet. It is the least used type of sonnet. It is same as the Shakespearean sonnet, but there is a little bit change in the rhyming scheme of this sonnet, and the rhyming scheme is different from both the Petrarchan and the Shakespearean sonnet. The rhyming scheme is A B A B, B C B C, C D C D, E E. The couplet rhymes in the last line, couplet rhymes. So we can see that strand in the very first line rhymes with hand in the third line. Away and pray, and the same the last sound of the first quatrain is carried over to the next quatrain, last word essay, pray, essay, B, and DK again rhymes with the fifth line rhymes with the seventh line, and again the sound C likewise is carried over to the next quatrain, device. Only the couplet is an exception. It rhymes in itself. It has a different sound and it is complete in itself. So I have given a basic short information about all these types of sonnet. And coming to the subjects of sonnet, Petrarch mostly wrote love sonnets, one-sided love. Shakespearean sonnets were all centered on love, friendship, and they were often addressed to an imaginative man, Mr. W.H., or to a dark lady. After Shakespeare, during the age of Shakespeare, Milton, John Donne, and later William Wordsworth, they also used sonnets, and they dealt with many subjects like God, life, death, nature in these sonnets. So this is all about sonnets. Thank you. We will meet again in our next class, and I will tell you all about epic poetry.